There's been a lot of discussion in the past few weeks over who would actually be the ones to make Star Wars Battlefront 3. If Lucasfilm went ahead and gave the green light and wanted to get the game made, who would they be getting to make it? Now, there's a bit of confusion about this. A lot of people talk about EA and beg EA to make Battlefront. It's not really up to them. Lucasfilm are the ones who own the Battlefront IP, not EA.
What?
And therefore, I think there's a big choice to be made in which studio would actually be the ones to make Star Wars Battlefront 3 come true. Well, today we're going to look at all the options, and there's actually quite a few of them, and I'd love to know which studio you would like to make Battlefront 3. You can choose any studio you want, any game dev, who you want it to be. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. So over on Twitter today, I asked you guys if you could choose the dev studio to make Battlefront 3, who would it be? Now, I've been given quite a range of responses here. I'm going to go through all of them as well as add some other ones in. The most obvious choice to start things off is, of course, DICE, an EA studio. They built Battlefront 1 and 2, therefore clearly have the DNA for Battlefront games. They have all of the previous assets that were created for Battlefront 1 and 2, but there's a few problems with DICE making the next one. Number one, most of the devs that made Battlefront have moved on to work at other studios, and the current devs are now focused solely on Battlefield. And EA seem to want DICE to only focus on Battlefield from this point moving forward. That could of course change, but it seems unlikely that DICE would be the studio to make Battlefront 3 if it ever does get greenlit. So then who else? Where else do we go? Well, another EA studio that some of you have suggested is Respawn. And I see Respawn as honestly being somewhat of a viable option, considering they have experience in working on both shooters with Apex Legends and Titanfall, and also working on Star Wars with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and the third Jedi game, which is releasing in the next few years. The problem though, I think, with Respawn working on Battlefront 3 is currently, I think their resources are too stretched. I know they have separate teams for the different divisions. There's Apex Legends team, there's the Star Wars Jedi team, and then they also have other devs who are working in conjunction with Zero Company. Behind the scenes, over the last few years, Respawn were also working on the cancelled Mandalorian game, which was supposed to be some kind of shooter and was cancelled before anything was revealed or released about it, and before it ever saw the light of day. Do Respawn have the resources to build Battlefront 3? I'm not sure, but I definitely think they could be a good candidate to do it in the future. Okay, now stepping outside of EA's studios, another option that I've been recommended the most is Arrowhead. They develop Helldivers, and because of that game's DNA, its gameplay, its customization, third-person shooter, immersive worlds, and the game being somewhat of an evolved version of Galactic Conquest, Arrowhead definitely seem like they could be a good option. But again, I think they would face a similar problem to Respawn. Do they have the resources to build a game like Battlefront 3 in conjunction with what they're already developing with Helldivers and maybe their own IP and projects beyond Helldivers 2? I think it's important to consider though that so many moments in Helldivers feel like they could be in Star Wars. It's clearly influenced by Star Wars in some ways, and last year me and a few friends gave Helldivers a Star Wars skin, shout out to Toasted Shoes for creating the mods, and the game suddenly becomes an incredibly immersive Star Wars experience. It feels like Arrowhead are a studio that could understand the Star Wars DNA and also really nail those large-scale immersive battles, so perhaps they are a good contender that Lucasfilm could consider. Now, another option for a game developer that I've seen recommended the most to me is Embark Studios. They've most recently developed Arc Raiders and also The Finals a few years ago. They have a lot of experience developing shooters. Arc Raiders, of course, third-person extraction shooter, boss fights, immersive open world feeling planets, large scale, and you're basically fighting droids the entire time, robots, NPCs, as well as other players. Now again, at this point in time, it does feel like Embark could potentially be a good option, but again, I feel like this is honestly just another example of a studio that's doing well currently with its own IP. So why touch Star Wars? Why take the risk? And in some ways, I think that's part of the reason EA are potentially moving away from Star Wars in some aspects and moved away from the Star Wars multiplayer space. Their CEO previously said they want to strengthen their own IPs rather than work with IPs they don't own, third-party IPs, such as Star Wars. And I feel like a lot of these studios might feel that way. Hey, we're already developing our own IP that's really strong, our games, and we're getting 100% of the profits. So why would we introduce Star Wars where clearly Lucasfilm, Disney are going to take a huge cut? The game is going to take potentially 5 years to make and potentially comes with a lot of risk. I think the argument the other way here would be that there's also the potential to earn a lot more money because it's Star Wars, and if you get it right, man, that thing could be earning forever. Look at Battlefront 2's resurgence. Battlefront 2 is still earning EA so much money now because of the resurgence it's had, because so many players are going back to play the game, and 8 years later, new players are still discovering it and basically treating it like a new game.
Just like the simulation.
Next up, I have the suggestion of Wayfinder Studios. This is the studio that was founded by Dennis Brandval, who was previously the lead dev on Battlefront 2. It seems unlikely at this point in time that they would touch Star Wars, considering, again, they're developing their own games. As far as we know, they're developing some kind of RPG, which they're yet to reveal. And the idea here would be that you're bringing former Battlefront devs, especially the lead dev, Dennis Brandval, to work on the next game, which they never got to make because EA, Disney, whoever, didn't greenlight it. But as cool as that would be, it seems like at this point in time, they're kind of busy doing their own thing. A lot of former Battlefront 2 devs have expressed their interest in returning to the franchise if Battlefront 3 did get announced, if it was greenlit to be made. But where they would be working out of, it's hard to say. The next suggestion for a game dev studio I've had is Bungie. They, of course, have developed the Halo games and also Destiny 1 and 2. Halo and Battlefront, I think, go hand in hand. In some ways, I always considered Halo like the non-Star Wars Xbox version of Battlefront. And there's a lot of crossover between the styles of games here. Similarities in the large open battlefields. The vehicle combat in particular, I think, is really comparable. And isn't Destiny 2 literally about to get Star Wars expansion? It is. There's going to be Star Wars DLC in Destiny 2. They're already working on Star Wars. That could potentially be a studio that could make Battlefront 3. I don't know. And now I'm wondering, is the Star Wars DLC they're doing them getting their feet wet? You know, is it them building a relationship with Lucasfilm and potentially wanting to do something larger in the future? It could be. I mean, I think outside of the studios I've already mentioned, you have to consider Bungie an option, especially considering their relationship, which they clearly already have with Lucasfilm. What do you think, guys? Are Bungie someone you'd want to see make Battlefront 3? Now, another option for a studio I've been thrown a few times is Epic Games. And I feel like thinking that Epic Games could make some version of Battlefront 3 isn't actually that far-fetched. It just might not be the Battlefront 3 you all want. At the start of last year, Disney literally bought a several billion-dollar stake in Epic Games, meaning they now own part of Epic Games, and part of this is collaboration between the two studios. And the reason for this is so that they can continue to collaborate into the future with the intention of developing a lot more Disney-themed experiences in Fortnite and using Epic Games. I think we're already seeing the start of that with the month-long Star Wars event we've just had in Fortnite, but it seems like they want to build more specific tailored experiences using Disney IP in Fortnite. So for example, we could get a full Marvel game in Fortnite or a full Star Wars game, as in Battlefront 3.
I'm doing my part.
I mean, it seems like a smart option for any developer to develop Battlefront 3 in Unreal Engine, which of course is developed by Epic Games. So would it be that bad if Battlefront 3 was released within Fortnite as a game mode or a section of Fortnite, similar, I guess, to what Lego Fortnite is? I personally don't know if I really like this option, but if it ends up being an incredible immersive Star Wars experience, I'm not going to complain. The distinction here I just think we need to make, though, is it needs to be really different and unique. It needs to be very different to what Fortnite Battle Royale is, and can't have that same Fortnite feel to it, because as cool as some of the Star Wars event content we've had in Fortnite this month is, it's still Fortnite, and it still feels like Fortnite. We need it to feel like Battlefront. I think the two are separate things. They need to coexist, not just be one or the other. Another one I've had recommended to me is Activision, and I'm assuming this means Infinity Ward or Treyarch, developers of Call of Duty, of course. I feel like they're busy enough and make enough money with Call of Duty that they don't really need to do anything with Star Wars at this point in time. For me, that one just feels quite unlikely, but of course they do have heaps of experience in developing shooters. I just don't think it's the same really as Battlefront. Okay, another one I've had recommended is Apogee, who are probably most recently known for developing Turbo Overkill, which was developed by Trigger Happy Interactive. I don't know if they have the scale to develop a game like Battlefront, but I don't know, this is a studio I honestly just don't know enough about. Let me know if you think they could do it. Okay, so another suggestion I've had, and I think this one is somewhat viable, is Guerrilla Games. They've most recently developed the Horizon games, as well as previously the Killzone games, also assisted with Death Stranding. My only thing with them would be multiplayer, even though they potentially have the experience from working on the Horizon games with large-scale worlds, with the movement system, with third person, with different weapons. I don't see this studio's DNA being good with multiplayer shooters. It just feels like a bit of a mismatch in my opinion. I've also had some of you recommend Insomniac, who most recently have developed the Spider-Man games. They developed Ratchet & Clank. Again, as great as their games are, they're more the single-player third-person variety and not really the multiplayer large-scale shooter. So I think we should also consider maybe some smaller, more niche options. First, we have Offworld Industries. They developed Squad. Galactic Contention, the giant Star Wars mod, was developed for Squad. And this studio has an interesting backstory, starting initially as just a team of modders. Community modders who made mods for Battlefield, which evolved evolved into what Squad is today. With what we've seen is achievable in Squad with galactic attention, they certainly seem like a viable option, and I think this just depends on how big a game Battlefront 3 potentially needs to be. Like, do we need a giant studio working on this, or can it be a more targeted, smaller niche studio, maybe 30 to 50 people who can just build a more tailored, large-scale open experience? Maybe it takes a bit longer, but we get a really refined product at the end of it. Does Battlefront 3 need as much content as Battlefront 2 has? Battlefront 2 is one of the biggest games in terms of content. Man, there's like 50 maps. The attention to detail is absolutely wild, and I understand it still feels like there could be so much more in the game, but perhaps if it was more of a refined experience, they don't do Starfighter Assault, stuff like that, as cool as that would be to see again, I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe no story mode as well, but all of these are part of Battlefront's DNA. They set the bar too high with the original Battlefront 2. And to develop a game like that for modern consoles with graphical standards and the immersiveness that it needs, I think is just a huge, huge project, which is part of the reason it's probably never been made. I mean, look what even happened with the original Battlefront 3, which was cancelled. Part of the reason it was cancelled, game was buggy, they ran out of money, decided to move away from it. I don't know, there's a lot of issues. I've made other videos about that, but Offworld, maybe that's a good option. Next up, we have Expression Games and Cover 6 Studios, who developed Hell Let Loose. Platoon-based, realistic, multiplayer, first-person shooter. All of those things could be part of Battlefront. Highly rated game, highly reviewed. Is this a stepping stone into Star Wars? Could they do something like Battlefront 3? Possibly. Again, I think they'd need to expand, but maybe the option is there if the pitch is right. Now, the other option we have is a new studio altogether, to form a new studio specifically dedicated to building Battlefront 3. This could be either through Lucasfilm or perhaps even an EA studio. They could bundle resources from the previous Battlefronts, even bring back former developers who worked on Battlefront 1 and 2, and potentially build the game as a bit more of a grassroots kind of thing. Potentially, I guess, also similar to what BitReactor are doing with Zero Company. Bring together former devs who worked on the XCOM games, who are passionate about making that specific kind of game, and hopefully build the best game possible, the best Battlefront 3 possible. Me, this seems like a really good option. It's just a matter of where does the studio come from, and I assume it's a lot harder to set up a new studio, considering you need office space, you need so many things, versus just giving it to someone who already exists. And then we do also have another option, the option of, fine, I'll do it myself. Welcome to Bombastic Studio. No one else has been able to make Battlefront 3, so I guess I may as well do it myself. I know nothing about game development, but I know a lot of stuff about Battlefront. Maybe I could make Battlefront 3. What do you guys think? Subscribe if you agree.
Yes, master.
Another option I feel like maybe we should throw in there is massive entertainment. Oh, I don't know how that's going to go down with you guys, especially considering how mixed the reviews were for Star Wars Outlaws. That was single player. They've built the Division games. They're multiplayer, third-person shooter, exploring kind of more open worlds, similar to Battlefront. Maybe, maybe not. Seen it mentioned, thought I'd add it. But I think at this point in time, Lucasfilm, if you're interested in my pitch, let's go. I'll make it happen. Guys, can you please help me get to 1 million subscribers before Battlefront 3 launches? That'd be great. Also, come follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Discord, TikTok. Keep spreading Battlefront 3 everywhere. Comment everywhere. Battlefront 3. Watch this video for more Star Wars. Let me know what studios you want to see. Make Battlefront 3. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew, and always remember,
Stay bombastic.